It's our journey to know that's taken us from those very humble beginnings.
It continues to point to a gene-environment
I
interaction.
distinctly remember sitting there thinking, my daughter couldn't read on Monday and now she can read.
So I'm hosting my own reading challenge.
Formula that we recommend based on the research.
And we called it Lindamood-Bell Learning Processes.
Welcome to the Lindamood-Bell Radio Podcast, where we explore topics in literacy and learning. I'm Dave Hungerford for Lindamood-Bell. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is a conversation I had with a mother that I met just outside of Sydney, Australia, a couple years ago. Tarra talks about how her 9-year-old's self-esteem began to plummet as a result of his struggle with maths. A learning ability evaluation revealed an underlying comprehension weakness that was the cause of the math difficulty. She talks about the experience at the Lindamood-Bell Learning Center in Sydney and the effect of on-cloud-9 math instruction on her son's ability and confidence.
So my name's Tarra and we're in Sydney. We live in Manly and I've got 2 boys who've both attended Lindamood.
Tell me about your boys. What kind of kids are they?
They're very lateral thinkers, very creative, very sweet. 2 boys, they're 9 and just turned 7. So, yeah. So year 1 and year 4. Yeah.
So what's their academic and school career been like thus far?
Yeah, so school was a struggle for them. They don't seem to think pretty straightforwardly like the majority of the other children that seem to be in the class. The teacher sort of described them both as being very lateral thinkers, incredibly creative, but really struggle to sit in the chair and have a long day. So yeah, they get distracted. Yeah.
So was this something the teachers talked about in the very first year of schooling, or did it come up later?
So my 9-year-old son, he was bullied in year 1, so when he was 6, and so he then fell behind in school, and he was very he was very protective. They said often that he needed to go to OT because he would sit slumped, but at home he wouldn't. So we just realised that he was being a bit protective in school and he sort of fell behind. And then when we changed to a new school, it was just hard to catch him back up again. And it was sort of started then.
So you must have had a conversation or two with the teachers and maybe the principal. What was that like?
So his teacher in year 1 was fabulous. In year 2 was fabulous. She said that I'm his teacher and you just love him and look after him and I will teach him. And she was fabulous. She caught him up and he did really well. And then in the next year, his teacher was patronising and he didn't really have a very good relationship with her, and he went straight back to being protective and fell significantly behind. So, yeah.
So you decided to make a change at some point. Was there a particular turning point, or was it just kind of a cumulative effect of all the experiences you'd had thus far?
I think Zave and another boy were told that it was very difficult for them to do maths. He was embarrassed in front of the whole class. He felt like he couldn't do it. I could see his confidence slowly sort of really reducing dramatically, didn't really believe in himself, was too scared to try. At one point he said to me, "I hate myself." And that was heartbreaking because he's amazing. And you talk to him and he's incredibly articulate. Like, you can tell he's a bright kid. But yeah, I said to him, there are a million reasons why you're amazing, but it doesn't matter what I think. It's about how you feel about yourself. Are you good at anything? And he could come up with a few things that he was good at. And he said, actually, I'm just really bad at maths. And I said, bad at maths, we can fix bad at maths. And so that's why that was the day that I booked in to come into Lindamood. So he had been okay at maths, and then he sort of reverted back to counting on fingers because he really needed to have something concrete because his confidence was so shattered. And we had him assessed and felt that there would probably be about 3 weeks that he needed the work to be done. But the way sort of it was done, he sort of had caught up within the first week because it was intensive and, he was capable of the work. And then, so then they worked with him for the other week to sort of prepare him for the year that was coming so that he'd feel familiar with his work. And that really shifted his confidence. Like, he was a different kid after that. He believed in himself and he would try, and it was great.
So how did you hear about Lindamood-Bell originally?
So through a previous student of Lindamood, her child was dyslexic and was being supported through the remedial teaching group at the school. And she said that he'd walked into Lindamood with 60 sight words and had walked out with 600, and that he was a changed kid in terms of confidence, because a conversation sort of came up about how our kids were struggling in terms of their self-belief and their ability to do the work. And she had said it was really worthwhile to actually do the testing just to sort of see where they currently sit and see where their strengths were. And that the intensive program had made a huge difference to her son. So, yeah.
So what was the original Lindamood-Bell testing like?
I think Zave thought it was very long and that I wasn't going to come back for him because it kept going. But it was great because we could actually see where all the different sort of strengths or weak points were. And yeah, I just felt like we were confident in terms of knowing where the education had to be directed to. So yeah, it was good. And he loved the assessment. I think he surprisingly, as long as it was, felt that he was engaged in it and that people were really nice to him. So yeah, it didn't quite feel as long as it sounded. Yeah.
So did your son do the intensive schedule?
Yeah, so I think he did 5 hours a day for 3 weeks, 5 or 6 hours a day, I think, initially. And we just worked on maths for the first part of it. Oh, no, we didn't. We worked on the comprehension. And that although he could read well, his comprehension was relatively poor. So, yeah, it was a visualising, verbalising, yeah.
So undoubtedly you had the weekly consultation meetings, meet with the teachers and the staff there. What was that like?
It was great, actually. So I had weekly meetings just to see what they'd been doing through the week. And yeah, it was great to sit in to actually see what they were doing and to see them be really proud of themselves. Because I think that was the difference too, is that to build his confidence, he knew that he was working really hard at this. So he really could see that his own progress was improving. So it was nice to see him be really proud and actually show me what he could now do. And yeah, the whole way along was sort of explained what was happening, why it was happening. At first I think it feels like you're doing the same thing. Like Xavier's feedback was, I just do the same thing every day. And yeah, but it was interesting because I don't think what he would realised is that week to week, this passages were getting longer and it was becoming more complex. So yeah, it was good to see it because then we could give that feedback to him too, to say, I had noticed that it might be the same thing, but it's a lot different what you're actually capable of doing.
So was that a challenge, the fact that he was doing the same types of skills over and over?
I think probably, because he just didn't know how long it was going to keep going for, because it was every day. But yeah, after that first week, he sort of knew, what the routine was and what he was going to get out of it. So yeah, he was pretty excited to go, which I thought was amazing, to do the same thing every hour for 6 hours in a day, that you would still be really keen to return. And I think it's the way that it's taught, really, is that they do understand what they've been capable of achieving themselves. So yeah.
How long ago was this?
So Zave's in year 4 now. So we started halfway through the year. So I'd say it was probably July last year, a year and a bit ago.
So he was in school at this point?
Yeah, he was in school. Yeah, he was. I've just pulled him out of school just this term. So this is our first homeschooling term that we've completed just now. He basically... yeah, he was going okay. He just, I just started getting the same feedback about my younger son, is that he's distracted and that he's not doing his work, and he was getting really bullied. And so I noticed that his confidence was starting to go, which I could recognise from, seeing what Zave had gone through. And so over the holidays, they sort of went back to being my boys that were settled and happy and capable again. So I just thought it wasn't going to happen to send them back again, because I wanted to keep them like that.
So how did the school react when they learned that you were pulling them to take them to Lindamood-Bell?
They thought that was great. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, the kids are really happy to do that. Yeah, no. So from the teachers that I have talked to independently, they felt that this was a good decision for our kid.
So what's the process here in Australia for being able to homeschool your child?
So you apply to homeschool the children. You need to be aware of the syllabus. You need to have a plan how you're going to go about teaching them, that you actually know kind of what you're doing. I say kind of because I'm relying on Lindamood-Bell to actually, take up that syllabus because I'm not a teacher. I want to oversee their practice and all of those sorts of things. And then they come out and check that the environment suits your child and that you do have a plan that will fit the needs of them and the education department. And then they come back in a year's time is the maximum. So I was given the maximum amount of time for review. So I just have to keep track of what we're teaching them, and they come back in a year just to check that we've done what we said we would do and that the boys are thriving. So, yeah.
One of the topics in the state surrounding homeschooling is the question of how do you maintain the kind of a social life and the social activities for your kids. How do you do that here?
My kids are really social. Like at the minute, they're at Taekwondo camp for 3 days. The little one didn't really want to go because he was having difficulties with other children. And I said to him, you need to go because that's life and you're not at school. So these are the things that you need to learn, is that if people are difficult, how to manage it, how to avoid them, how to deal with it. So yeah, they go to they've maintained all their same sort of friends, so they still see them. They still do lots of activities out of school, so they do drama and art and and they go to another place called Tinker Tank, and it's like a STEAM learning, and so the children there work collaboratively, so they'll build robots and they'll do coding, and they have to actually work in a team. So, they are learning them in a different way.
And so what are the plans for your son for the future?
It was just kind of a decision that I thought I could recognise that it wasn't working, so we sort of pulled them out because we'd been thinking about it for a long time. The main thing for us is that the kids were really struggling at school, I guess, from a psychological perspective in terms of belief of themselves. And the stark contrast between what they're doing now is that they actually go and they feel really good about it and they actually really succeed. So while that's still continuing and it's at a level that we can manage, we'll keep going. I expect they'll probably move on in high school because I think social aspect will change and they'll need that group of friends and things like that. So that's a short-term plan. So we'll just gauge it as we go, I think. Yeah. And
so how are the maths?
Yeah, maths is good actually in lots of ways because at least there's one answer. Like I find the English stuff harder because, there's so many different levels and perspectives in terms of teaching that. But the maths is going really well. Since he caught up with maths and things like that, he's much more capable of just getting on with it and working independently and not being so distracted because he's not overwhelmed. So
I would say that talking with you, this keeps the streak alive of all the parents I've talked with, that improving their kids' confidence is just as important, if not more, than the actual reading scores themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I don't know.
Well, obviously they're tied together.
They are tied together because they're succeeding and they know they're succeeding rather than struggling. So, and I don't know, it's just the way they're treated is differently. Like I just felt like school, the kids weren't, I don't know, how do you explain it? They were struggling and they sort of had to be kept on track a lot by the teacher, which is frustrating for the teacher because she has 25 other students to have to keep track of. Whereas one-on-one for my children, they're kept on track. They get the work done and that makes them feel good about themselves.
I've had teachers argue that, if I had a kid one-on-one, he'd make this kind of progress as well. Do you think that's the most significant factor in this process?
No, I think it's the program too. I think that it is, I don't know, it's the structure of it too, and it's the way that the teachers actually interact with the children too. I don't know, they're treated not like kids, like they're treated like they're these people who are capable of doing the work and they're given the work and expected to do the work. And I think that having a positive expectation that they can do it makes them do it. I don't know.
How would you describe the programs to a parent that didn't know them? Is that a magpie?
It is a magpie. There are lots of magpies out there.
I've been warned about them.
Oh, have you? Yeah, I walked through a park today and I thought this is probably a really bad decision because it's September. I didn't get hit, so it was good.
Is it magpie swooping season right now?
Yeah, exactly. Now is the peak of it. So, Yeah. You're pretty safe in here. How would I explain it? I don't know. I just think that it's intensive, and I just think you see a big change in a really short period of time. And I think that it's a positive experience, and the kids feel really good about themselves afterwards. And I think they go back into school having a belief, like having just time out for a little bit to actually know that they can do it, and they just come back into school feeling much more capable of getting on with what they need to get on with.
How would you explain the day-to-day experience for your sons at the Learning Center?
No, I don't know. I'm trying to explain what it is like for the kids, because the kids get really excited to see the people there too. Like it's even beyond the program. I don't know. That people are excited to see them, and so that always makes them feel really good about it too. And I think it's almost the rewards too. But each of their little moments that they get, that sort of encourages them to keep going. And it's not. I don't know, it's not necessarily about the rewards or the potential of winning something at the end of the week, but it's just those ongoing little achievements that they make. Yeah.
It seems like both of your sons had some pretty dramatic changes.
Yeah, Zave's made the biggest difference really in him, because he's a really sensitive kid too. So he was very aware that he wasn't keeping up with the other children too. So that was hard for him because he's quite sensitive. But yeah, no, he's very much on track now, which is good. Yeah.
Well, thank you for inviting us into your lovely home and having this conversation today.
Welcome.
And I want to thank you for listening to the Lindamood-Bell Radio Podcast. If you like what you've heard, rate us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Lindamood-Bell on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We are Lindamood-Bell Learning Processes.